Black like me. Black like me. Black like me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Hey, good people. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. podcast. Now, I've been hyping up season 12, telling you that we're going to have great stories and great guests as we tell the story of the grand opening of the Center for Black Excellence in Culture. And of course, in your notes section, there'll be a link that can take you there to find out more about this great project that's taking place in Madison. But I'm talking to the people who have worked behind the scenes and helping me to bring this great vision to pass. And so I'm excited about what we're doing, that we've built something in South Madison that really is poised to tell the story of the influence of Black people, Pan-African people, across the state of Wisconsin since we first arrived, and tell it through the lens of storytelling and plays and art and meeting and trainings and conferences. And we have this beautiful facility, but there's so many other aspects to it, particularly in how we tell the story of what this is. And I have some of my friends, they become friends, they're colleagues who have become friends, who have helped us tell this story. I have Dave Floran and Dana Arnold from the Hebing Group. Dave is the CEO for this group, and Dana is the Chief Growth Officer for Hebing Group. This is a team that does work across the country. They've got offices in Madison and in Austin, Texas. That's correct. They're storytellers in a magnificent way. And I'm going to let them tell a bit of their story, of our story, as we move into this. But first of all, let me just pause and say, Dana, Dave, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Awesome. My face hurts from smiling so hard walking through this building.
This is your first time seeing it in this phase.
Oh,
yes, my gosh.
It's beautiful. Beyond words. Beautiful.
Thank you, Dana. Dave, how are you doing today?
We're doing great. And to walk through the building and see it actually come to fruition, the vision, it's awesome.
Remind me, you two, how long you've been in Madison. Dave, are you from Ohio? Am I going the wrong?
You are correct.
I remember that because we talked about track and field.
You're right.
You're an old half miler?
Good memory. Half mile for
880. Back in our day, it was called the 880.
That you are now. You're dating us, but
and
yes.
I ran the 440. So, and I thought you guys were crazy.
And we were a little bit.
Like, why would you do that twice?
Well, and yes, I grew up in Akron, Ohio, but came here in I hate to say it, but 1988, and have been in Wisconsin ever since.
Wow. Yeah, it traps a lot of us like that.
It does.
And Dana, now, where'd you grow up? And are you a Midwesterner?
I'm a Midwesterner. Also grew up in Ohio, different area, Toledo, Ohio. But,
sure.
But came to Madison through Arizona. So came to Madison 16 years ago for the job at Hebing. So
Got you. What does the Chief Growth Officer do? Is that growing business or growing people, or all the above?
All of the above. So
really?
It is definitely growing business. It is, I think, in the work that we've been able to do together, I'm plugged in sometimes around strategy. I'm plugged in to make sure that the promises we made on the front end of a relationship, we're maintaining, that we're driving that momentum for the brands that we get to serve. So I wear a lot of hats.
Definitely. And Dave, you've been the CEO for how long?
Since 2001, so 25 years.
So did you work for Hebing Group before you became CEO?
I worked for them for about 10 months before becoming the CEO. So the transition was a little faster than what
so you had a plan
expected.
when you came. I see. You had
So I came here for college,
thickens.
spent a decade in Milwaukee before coming to Madison for this job. But 10 months later, it became the CEO role.
So Hebing is named after its founder, Roman Hebing. Was he running it when you came?
Roman,
was he still around?
He was still around. Roman founded the agency back in 1981. He had gone to the University of Wisconsin, spent a long stretch in Chicago, and realized he still wanted to do national level work, but he wanted to get out of the rat race of Chicago. And he realized what better town to do it in than Madison, Wisconsin. So he founded Hebing in 1981, and Roman was still involved, but he wasn't running it at that point. So it was a quick transition.
Dave, do you remember the story of how Hebing and the Center for Black Excellence came to the table together to do some work. Do you remember that?
I do. It was you and I sitting in folding lawn chairs in your parking lot.
And why were we sitting in folding chairs?
Because it was right in the middle of COVID,
Yes.
and we were not allowed in the building, and we had to be 6 feet apart from each other. So we were sitting in two folding chairs out in the parking lot of the church next door.
You know, what's so crazy is I thought that when COVID happened, all the plans for this center were just thrown out the window. And Rick Phelps called me up a few months later and said, "Look at what's happening in our world. We need good news. We need a win. We need to get the band back together." And you and I were sitting outside talking about the project, or just talking in general. I mentioned that I was working with Rick Phelps and Jim Bauer, and you said, "Wait a minute, I've worked with those guys on another project. Those are my guys. That's my team. I know those folks. How can I get connected?" I could not believe you said that to me. I hope I'm remembering the gist of it correctly.
That's exactly how it went, because we had worked with both of those guys on the Capital East, East Washington project.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that you knew them, that you'd worked together.
Yep.
So for you all who don't know Madison, Wisconsin, or Wisconsin at all, the East Capitol District is an area of the town that really flows out of the Capitol, so it's along East Washington Avenue,
basically from Blair Street out to the Yahara River, kind of that corridor along East Washington.
But it was an eyesore. I mean, when we moved to Madison in 1970, we lived near Tenney Park, so I can remember like seeing all the coal for Madison Gas and Electric. I think Don Miller had the dealership, Pontiac and Subaru, Goodyear Tire, and then Breeze Stevens is an athletic stadium that was never open in my lifetime until recently.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I remember years ago, Jim Bauer and I kind of walking around that area, and he was casting vision about what was going to happen. And to look at that beautiful area, when people come from out of town, I take them to see that area of town. You guys did a fantastic job on that.
It was a fun one to work with those guys on, and also Vanderwall and Associates. Rob Gottschalk had a lot of vision involved in that as well.
When I realized that you all had built that relationship and had accomplished something so tremendous in the community, it made me excited and nervous at the same time to think we could bring that same talented group, that same brain power together to do something on the South Side. Really kicked everything up to the next level. And please go ahead.
If you even want to rewind the clock, even before we met, the reason we met in the parking lot was during COVID, you were actually leading a group of leaders from the board of directors for the United Way through a series of conference calls, which we couldn't meet in person, so we were doing that via video.
Of course.
And you were leading a group on behalf of Renee Moe through what Madison needed in today's context.
Exactly.
On the heels of Black Lives Matter and COVID occurring kind of simultaneously at that
exactly.
point. So that's actually what led to you and I meeting in the parking lot.
So Renee and I had this discussion. Renee leads United Way of Dane County. We've been friends for years, and I did an interview, and the interviewer asked, because George Floyd had just been killed, and do you feel better having space to tell your story? And I said, no. And she looked surprised because she asked me this on air.
Right.
And I said, no, I'll feel better when you have white guests in these chairs asking them, how do they feel about what's happening in the world when we said if we don't get things right, this is what's going to happen. And so she said, I'm going to take you up on that challenge. That's a great, and got people into the studio. But Renee said we could do more. We can do better. So she invited some of the board members from United Way in. Mm-hmm. And what was meant to be just a one-time gathering, but then we turned it into a 3-part series, we ended up meeting for years. I think, what was the date? Was it like a year and a half?
It was easily a year and a half. Yep.
Jim Yaley, who is the president of Fendorf Construction, who built this facility, took on the management of it, which meant his office set up the meetings and scheduled them.
Right.
And so I forgot about that. So, and I didn't do it as the guy who's building the Center for Black Excellence and Culture. I did not talk about it, and I really didn't even do it as the head of Nehemiah. I just did it as a concerned citizen.
I didn't even know about the center around your vision in that until we were sitting in the parking lot. So you didn't bring it up at all.
I was
in those
very
early
careful
calls.
So that the business leaders would not think that it was a bait and switch. Thank you for putting that prequel
Sure.
to the story, because it's also a reminder that we were all bewildered. We lived in this community. State Street was in flames. It connects the Capitol and the University of Wisconsin. The city called out Black artists, including my sister. Leleda was the first artist that was contracted to do mural work over the boarded up windows. And so much was going on in the world and in our community. I don't think we had buildings on fire probably since Dow Chemical was on campus, perhaps, or Carlton Armstrong blew up the physics building. Mm-hmm. And so we were just trying to figure out what's going on. And then we couldn't gather and meet to talk through it. It was a very strange time.
And bewildered, I think, is the perfect word, because there were a lot of us that were trying to figure out what's the appropriate response in context of everything that was happening around all of us.
You know, looking back on this story, you guys, it just makes you think about serendipity and destiny and faith and being in the right places at the right time, because those were really frightening times. But because we gathered virtually, it still created relationships. When I think about some of the key folks that have shaped the center, and there was no mention of the center. In fact, some people, I remember one business leader, once we kicked off the campaign, said, well, G never mentioned that he was looking for money or raising, like, why didn't he say anything? And I strategically didn't, so that I could just focus on creating a space where nonprofit leaders and for-profit leaders could meet on something other than fundraising.
Right.
So it created the perfect space just to be community influencers. But I met you there. I really got to know Yaley there, Kevin Conroy from Exact Sciences, Paul Kundert from UW Credit Union, Kim Spanum from Summit. Like, there are a lot of people who invested in this project who I would not have known were it not for that gathering.
Yep. It was a powerful group.
Wow. That's so interesting.
There was a lot of learning shared in those meetings.
Definitely. So you got your team together and said we could meet to talk about marketing, and you offered us to serve our project pro bono. And I didn't even know what marketing services looked like. I mean, I have an idea. We talk about marketing, like, does that mean social media? What does it mean? And boy, did you guys deliver. I know, you're supposed to save this as a punchline, as a public speaker, as a pastor, but like, where are we today, Dana? Like about $700,000 in pro bono services?
About 700,000.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so do you?
And it's our pleasure to do it.
Listen,
it's our pleasure to do it.
We love the work, and we're going to get into some of that. But for people lean into Black Like Me because they realize that there are cultural things that make us different, but things that make us so similar. So we can celebrate the differences, but it doesn't mean that it keeps us separate. But then there are things that really bring us close together. And what has been very meaningful has been the relationships that we build and as we get together. And so, we came together and started telling our story, and we didn't know what our story was. Like, I mean, if you think about this, Dana, being in the first meeting,
yes,
how do we discuss the marketing around this when we couldn't even articulate this? And whatever we thought we were describing, it wasn't. We thought we were describing sort of a souped up community center, but said, no, it's not that. You guys helped us to really talk through the story and the process and what people wanted to feel when they came into this space. And so to not know what professional marketing is or PR, to know what that is, and to still be trying to find the language for something that resided in our hearts, but we'd never seen it. So it wasn't like we saw this someplace else and then we wanted to duplicate it. We had these listening sessions. Black people were leaving Madison in unprecedented numbers. Businesses are struggling because they're hiring Black people and people of color, and they're not staying, and they have no idea what that's attributed to. I started asking people, what if it is attributed to not having a sense of cultural belonging? Yeah. What if it's people just wanting to see themselves reinforced? I think back in those days, Dana, I said, it's like going to grandma's house and everyone's picture is up but yours. After a couple of Thanksgivings, you're like, hey, Mom, Dad, you want to tell me something? Like, why am I not up there? And then how do you back up and start retrofitting that? Because people never assumed that was the case. As business leaders, you often talk about the corporate culture and what you want people to feel in Hebing or whatever your business is, but we never thought about the aggregate culture of Madison, Wisconsin, and what that might communicate to people. And Dana, your team was so understanding and willing to learn and leaning in to help us create the language that would allow us to create the center, and being in a position where we were expected to articulate what we wanted it to become actually helped us to become that.
Yes.
Is that the whole idea that the language shapes it? Because this is different than what I imagined, but as your team allowed us to talk, this took shape in our hearts. Did you know that was happening for us?
Well, I think we've done lots of development kind of, and I think development is when, there's a vision that's there, but literally nothing tangible to point to,
right.
to talk about. And I think creating the space to pull in those listening sessions, to understand what the community wanted, to be respectful of it being a very Black-led story that was there. You are a preacher. And so how do we take all of these thoughts and wishes and hopes that you have as a vision, and then just distill that into something that is a really powerful vision and story that other people can rally around? And it was a lot of time spent with you, a lot of time spent with Leda, just understanding what the community wanted and what it could be. And it's still evolving a little bit,
yes,
right?
It is.
You know,
in the last few weeks, as business leaders come in and see it. But that process was, again, that was all online, because it was I remember when we first met some of your staff, I said,
didn't know how tall people were.
Like, Justine, you look so tall online. And that wasn't like a crack. But I was just like, and I just saw her last week at something with, I gave her a big hug. And so, but it's just, it's funny when you get to see people's faces for so long every week, and then you meet them in person. But we got to be the client.
Yes.
And so often these concepts are in our heads, but we're not sitting with people with world-class experience like your Hebing staff. And to say we were the client and then treated us like the client. Like, I think I came in thinking that we would say what we want to create, and then you would say, well, here are the options. You can do it like this. It's like, well, tell us more. What do you want that to feel like, and what will that look like? That was a growth process for us to feel like this is our moment. This is our opportunity. We got to get this right. We have to look at the colors and the feel and the fonts and the background. A lot went into that.
Well, and it was kind of twofold of what do we want this place to be for the Black community?
Yes.
In creating this bedrock of culture here that just is not here yet. But then also, we need to raise money. I mean, this isn't just going to happen on hopes and dreams. And so I think those two things, how are we really, really committed to the vision and the story for each of those different audiences?
Wow.
If I can build on that a little bit,
please.
We're storytellers at heart, but we can't manufacture a story.
Right.
So our job in storytelling for brands and clients like you was really to actually figure out, how can we illuminate the truth? And in a scenario like this, where the truth hasn't yet been created, it's really to try to unfold and unpack that vision for what you had, and then cast it in ways that are relevant to, as Dana just referenced, two different audiences. The people for whom this is going to benefit every single day, but also the people who are going to give money to it, because those are two different motivations that we had
different.
And then, why is this going to be different than other things that people had experienced in Madison? And part of the challenge in that is, as you referenced a minute ago, nothing like this exists in the country. Right. And so to try to tell a story around something that people don't have an approximate equivalency to create in their mind, that made it a lot of fun.
And it felt daunting at times, because I realized we can't make this sound like a community center, but it can't sound like the Smithsonian African American History Museum. Are we what's the difference between a cultural center and a museum? Because if you come to a museum, you know the artifacts, you know what's there, and you're good. You don't need to come back, but we want people to continue to come back. But we want it to be a place that centers a sense of community and pride, so people have a place to become the best version of themselves in order to be able to give the best version of themselves to the broader community. That's a real tall order. As a storyteller, as a visionary, I could just sort of speak in generalities. Like, we want a place that feels like, but you guys needed specifics, like, because we've got to attract the community to want to come to this, but you got to raise money for people who may not come to this every day. There'll be performances and things that they'll do, but how do we sell the importance of this to the Black community and the importance of that to the broader community, while still making it feel like it's cultural, Black-led, Black-designed space, but that our allies are welcome to our comedic shows and plays and dances? To pull all that together, that very complex story, took a team of people who understand telling complex stories.
Well, and I think we had to have pace around it, because it just felt like this lightning rod moment in time, where you had community and business leaders and organizations and public sector too, that was like, we want to do something. We want to make a difference. How can we do that? And so I think to that year of this roadshow of conversations you were having of just like, trying to get that activity, to that momentum that was naturally happening. How can we draw them our direction to feed and fuel this? Yeah.
I remember a time when our church had 2 services, and people who would sit through both would say the second one was different than the first one. I said, well, the people in the first one were still asleep. The people in the second were saying, amen, preach it, say that again. So it was the same message, but the nuancing, the examples might have changed a little bit because the demographic changed. I might have had a 60-plus audience for the first one. I didn't know how to capture this because in writing, it's set. I can pivot as a public speaker. I can read body language and say, this slight joke is not going to work with this audience. And I shifted, and sometimes I got to do it on the spot. I guess they don't do it.
Absolutely.
Don't say that's not going to work. But in writing, you couldn't. And so, like when I preach, I write in pencil. But you were asking me to write in like a Sharpie, and to write it on a wall so everybody could see it. And I don't know if you knew how often I came to those meetings being afraid that if I don't get it just right, we can't sell it just right. And you all leaned in to know the story and to know that the story was unfolding. So it wasn't like it was all finished. You had to know where it was going enough to hold that tension for us, but you also gave room and space for the story to evolve. I always just pictured this. I grew up like in the 60s and 70s. I watched Bewitched, and so I'm used to Larry Tate, this marketing company. You come in, you pitch an idea, and like, no, this is how you sell cat food, or this is how you sell bananas, and they will give you like 1 or 2 sort of pitches, but I never thought about the story in it. Like, okay, here's my product. Show me how to best sell it. But the process actually helped the vision and the story to settle in my heart. So as it was becoming crystallized for Team Hebing, it was becoming much clearer for me. Is that a part of the process? I mean, when you're working with clients, is that what you experience, that, it's becoming clearer to them, so now we know what to do?
I'm just going to sparkle on you just for a little bit, because we work with a lot of leaders. We work with a lot of visionaries, and that's for sure the role that you had in this, a passion and a vision for what this is going to be, but you don't always have an amazing spokesperson, and you're a beautiful spokesperson for this project. And I know it's because it comes from your heart, but there are many times where we spend hours training people in how to communicate something, and it, like, what a gift for us that it was like, once we get close on what we think that communication is going to be, you will tell it beautifully. So it's just, a lot of this is truly because of your ability in that way. It's just awesome.
Oh, I love communications. If I could do things over again, I would not have studied economics. I would have studied comm arts, because I just realized that and technology is like my jam, but I didn't do enough space in it. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, and I'll go back to your process question. You talked about showing up to those meetings with a certain level of anxiety because you had to get it right. Our team showed up with that same level of anxiety for 2 reasons. One is, absolutely. One is, anytime you're showing up to a meeting, particularly with a founder-led organization, there's a different burden of getting it right.
Very true.
Simply because it's in their bones.
Personal.
It's personal, which is a little different than showing up to a meeting with a brand manager. There's a founder mentality that's different and personal. Dave. And then the second piece was, we knew we had one window to get this right. We can't relaunch this if it's not right in 2026. We can't come back and relaunch it with a different story in 2028. The burden to get this right on behalf of the whole team, there was a certain level of anxiety that the team
I wasn't the only one nervous.
You were not. Nope, absolutely.
In that space. The other things that you all did, which I thought was just very beautiful, is that you knew that we needed to have people of color in the process. Yep. And specifically, you made sure that at different times, at different phases, that members of the Black community were involved. And so whether it's from design, for whether it was stuff that Loudon did and stuff that Gijil did, that just brought things to life. We're like, that breathed. But the whole team presented it together. But that made us feel really good that you understood the sensitivity of what that would cause us to feel, or things that we could say, capture it like this, or think about this. It made us feel really respected and seen in what we were doing. But then also, Dana, we could see you leaning in where your cultural background is not Black, but your cultural background helped you to lean into the messaging, the feel. This is important, and we got to make sure that this vibes, and this can't just be on paper. It's got to live. It's got to move the emotion. You always brought that energy to the table as well, without overshadowing our voices or needs. But we could see you just leaning in and saying, "This is important. I get this. I get what you're saying and why you want it to be told like this." And that made those spaces always very empowering.
That's awesome.
Plus, you're the only person I know who laughs louder than my sister.
Yes. Oh,
can tell.
Lalena and I in a room. Yes.
I can tell when either Lalena or Dana are in the room and having a good time.
Yeah.
I can tell when you guys.
Even for those of us that weren't in those meetings, we knew when those meetings were occurring in other parts of the building.
And I'm sure it got louder when you guys brought food, and you guys fed us a lot. We're like, oh, food. Oh, we're gonna have some fun here.
But I think when you talk about kind of casting the team,
Yes.
and it goes back to illuminating the truth and also understanding nuance and allowing authenticity to really breathe in those spaces. And that's why having the right people throughout the process, whether it was Loudon or Giegel or Ashley or Richard. Because we really believe that as marketers, we have to bring our whole selves to projects. We don't just bring the piece that came to work between 8:30 and 5. We're whole people, and that shows up in the work that we do. And I think that showed up in the work we did on your behalf.
Right.
And the gift that was and is for our Black team members that get to work on this is, I mean, words cannot even describe.
I love it. I was messing with Richard the other day because he was on mute. Shelley was presenting something. And at the very end, we were all, signing off. I said, "Hey, Richard, you didn't say anything. Are you mad at somebody?" And everybody just started laughing. No. I was letting Shelley shine and sharing this information because you see these folks on screen for so long. I don't want to start sharing names because I'll start forgetting folks. But again, the people who just brought personality and energy to the table. I think is Ashley in Texas?
So Ashley and Richard are both in our Austin office. We're bringing them up for the open house.
Are you really?
Oh yeah.
Oh good.
Oh yeah.
Richard's been helping us with web design.
Yes.
And then Ashley helped us to think about the naming process of various rooms.
The manifesto, I think, was a.
Yeah, you guys are using like big scary language. Like, this is a manifesto. This is going to be a big. We want to meet with you next week to talk about the manifesto. Or sometimes you would say we need a 4-hour window. We could have the phone like, what the hell are we going to talk about for 4 hours? But then the time starts going fast. Yes. We're like, we need that. I thoroughly enjoy working with Jeremy Bush and humbling him and just bringing him down a couple of pegs.
He needs it.
But just the consistency of Jeremy, Shelley, Anna, and just reaching out to us and saying, well, let's try this. Let's flip this. I remember, and I will not name the firm. I would not remember their name anyway. They're not from Madison, but they're from another area in Wisconsin. When we first started this project, we felt that we had to apologize for suggesting change, and it felt personal. It was so much work to say, well, could we bring more color in, or could we do this, or could we feel this way, and rather than saying, well, let's take it back and look at it, they're explaining why our reasons were wrong and theirs were right. And we know that you're the experts in doing these things, but you're also experts in listening to the clients. But the flexibility in letting us do stuff. Like, I remember the looks on faces when Lalena said, and Lalena's
I know
task,
exactly where you're going to
go. This is about making sure that we have space that says to the Black community, we're thinking about you. So when she said, can we get a Black backdrop for the website? And I was like, why is she doing this? Like, that would be a cool, like, why is she? And I remember the team saying, well, typically we haven't done that. But then when it's finished, everyone's saying, this site looks so good. This site looks so, it was so vibrant and stuff jumped out. And I love sending people to it.
Unapologetically Black.
Yes. But I think had it been in the early phases, the team would have talked us out of it or explained how it would somehow diminish an intelligent look or something. But you guys trust, you're like, they're going to have to wear it. Like,
yes.
It's not going to say at the bottom, this ugly website was designed by the Hebing Group. Like now people, they could hack it and find out. They're like, let's try it. It became beautiful. Oh, and so then like in our postcards that you designed, like you guys designed our letterhead, you designed the logo that goes on my jacket, cards, business cards, greeting cards. Well, the sign on the sign you see from the belt line, like
it looks awesome.
The beauty, yes, the beauty of the center. You guys listen to me as we built this moniker, because the full name is the Center for Black Excellence in Culture. You can't read that going 60 miles an hour in the Beltline. But having grown up in South Madison, delivering newspapers across the street and being in this neighborhood, the South Madison Neighborhood Center when I was a kid was called the Center.
Yeah.
And even as recent as last week, I bumped into someone and they said, I know what you're saying when you call it the Center. Like, you're calling us back to a place where grandmas and preschool kids and homework clubs and mentoring and cooking classes, it all took place in that. It went out of business, and then it was rebranded as the Boys and Girls Club. But it was really more of an intergenerational space. So a lot of what I was trying to recreate is what I felt in that space and where the community felt in that space. So for you all to allow that moniker to take front stage so that we have the Center as like the branding of this, that never gets old. I said to the lady last week, a couple weeks ago, I said, do you remember what the old logo looked like? Like, it was just like in purple letters, like CENTER, like, no, the CENTER. It's like Hollywood Square. It was so, I hope that company's not listening. It was just, they're not. It was just so, it lacked innovation and color and richness. And I never get tired of looking at our logo. I'm sorry, Dave.
Well,
you're
no,
saying something.
you talked about listening. And do you know, you may not remember the first two words you see when you walk into our building. It's on a giant red wall in the stairwell.
You hear us say it all the time.
Wait a minute. I'm embarrassed that.
The minute I say these two words, you will recognize them because you've heard it a million times.
Drew lives here? Is that
well, Drew does live here. And actually, those probably should be the three words that you see. But
as soon as you say it, I'm going to remember it.
Yes, and. So when you walk in our building, there's a red wall, and it has two words on it in white, and it's yes, and. And the principle behind that is that we're big believers that teams outperform individuals. And that collective team it's both sides of the table. It's our clients, it's us, and so that whole notion of teams outperforming individuals is why we need to make sure that we're listening. We need to collectively craft an amazing story that resonates. That's not our job. It's not our client's job. It's a collective responsibility. Wow. So yes, and is at the principle of that.
Yes.
And then just to even tie back to your center story, my involvement in the community actually started when the center was rebranded to the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, so you were here.
So I started in 2001 with the Boys and Girls Club on Taft Street.
Right.
And just from a relationship standpoint, today I'm on the board of directors, the national board of directors for Boys and Girls Club, all because of what started on Taft Street for me personally as a part of that story as well.
That's where I hung out and played as a kid, and the
it.
essence of that space is what we wanted to recreate.
Yep.
There's so much uncertainty in the world right now, but I love that sitting down right here in front of this mic and letting the hard truths rumble out of my heart and off my chest is as certain as it ever was. When I reflect back on all of the seasons that we dropped here at Black Like Me podcast, each of them has had a special purpose, a one-of-a-kind lineup of guests, and its own unique field. I also think about the thread that binds them all together. What we do here at Black Like Me is unique. I don't have another space that feels just like this, where I can really speak from my unique perspective. And the guests who have on the show remark that these interviews they do here are unlike any others that they've done in other places. Sure, nobody else does Black Icebreakers, but that's only part of it. We have created a truly unique space here where honest conversations about the thoughts, the ideas, the policies that affect Black people and that Black people care deeply about. And you know what? It isn't easy. And I don't do this all alone. I have an incredible team that has steadily grown over the years, and each person that joins adds another asset to what we can do here. And all of you that support us on Patreon, my people, my people, my people. We simply would not be able to do what we do or get what we have gotten without you. So as we look to even bigger and better things in the coming season, please help support the show right now by clicking the link to Patreon in the show notes and join the community of people supporting this unique and provocative space. In the world that we're living in, where there's so much attack on our perspectives, our history, our bodies, and our lives and contributions, Aren't you glad you have a place where you can still hear powerful, exhilarating, intellectual Black thought like you do? I enjoy it. And so if you do too, share the good news, tell friends, click that Patreon link now. Thank you so much for your support of Black Like Me podcast with Dr. Alex G. Team Heaping has to be flexible to listen to a variety of stories and backgrounds as people are coming in and asking for your services. I would imagine the beauty of your work sort of like a skillet. Like the more you use it and cook in it, some of the residual flavors stays with the skillet to help flavor future things. I'm interested in knowing, are there aspects of working, not just from other Black-led projects, but in this project that you may look back and say, you know, we tried something here that we think might work in other settings that may have nothing to do with Blackness, but I'm curious if there are any pieces that you look at and say, you know, we helped them on this, but here's some things that we heard and learned that we think is going to help us just in our work. I'm curious if any memories of that comes to mind.
I do. We have done kind of what we refer to as brand compass.
Sure.
You know, we talk about positioning, we talk about core values and all of those things.
Mission and vision.
Mission and vision, all those things. And I think the work that we got to do together on that is words that we have used that we have not used for any, I mean, unapologetically Black, for example.
Yes.
Black joy, for example.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's an audacity, you know, to the work that we've been able to do with you. And I hope that for the individuals who've been part of this project, they have found new ways to be more courageous with how they're describing things, more authentic, you know, to the stories that we're trying to tell. Certainly that session for sure has informed different things that I do and lean into because of that.
To yes and that answer from Dana also, you used a term a minute ago that we use, which is called manifesto.
Yes.
Historically, we've used that sporadically. Mm-hmm. And coming out of this project, that's one of those pieces that I would love to see us use with greater frequency. And part of it is because when we're tackling things like mission, vision, positioning, oftentimes that can feel very strategic. And yet at times it doesn't have the same spirit of the written word of a little longer format. And that manifesto, there is so much spirit inside of that that transcends the strategy. And so I'd love to see that as a piece that we're more consistently applying, because I really think that element helped unlock some of the soul.
I think when we brought draft one to the team, I think it was Lilita who said, Dana, I want to hear the drum beats.
Yes, she did.
I want you to take this back. No, I want to hear the drum beats.
I remember that.
And then bring it back. I mean, and again, I think that's a great example of, you know, let's have some more audacity around this.
Right.
Like, let's peel that onion all the way back and do this. And I think when we came back with that V2, she said, okay, all right.
I hear it.
I hear it.
And I feel it. You know, what's interesting is that some of the conversations that we had in that major planning room, is that the Roman room, or is that the Hebrew
Roman
room?
Hebing
That's the
conference
Roman
room.
Hebing conference room. Bringing up Black joy and transcendence, and I think Lilita would say blankety black, or those are not things that we typically talk about. So we were manifesting certain longings for the community. And if those of us who are building this space and raising money for this space struggled to articulate it, not just getting you all to understand it, because part of it was, I'm a verbal processor, so is Lilita. Sometimes I'll say something and I'll be like, I didn't mean that to sound that way. Like I want to bring clarity to it. So for you to hold the essence of it, but giving us room to back up and restate it or start all over again, helped us, because we, being Black people in Madison, have been so conditioned to assimilation that our own longings and the articulation of those longings almost feel naughty. I remember once we were having a listening session. The lady was leading this, and I think this was with Black women asking what they want in the space. I remember one woman saying, wait, are we doing this? Like, well, what do you mean? Like, we in this group? Or like, no, is this by Black people, for Black people? It was like, we show up, we participate in things that's supposed to help with inclusion and diversity and all of these things, but we just sort of go through the motions thinking, this is not really going to center us. I remember that incredulous sound in her voice. Like, wait, like she just stopped the whole Zoom interview. This is for us? We're doing this. And this is a Black professional in our community whose job has been for the past decades is to make sure that people in Madison feel like they belong, but that typically has not been shaped by Black people who want to create a sense of belonging. And so not only did you capture the essence of what we wanted this to become, there was space created so we could think out loud, process, think, talk out loud until we landed on that right language, because we carried it in our heads and our hearts.
Yeah.
But there's not lots of spaces, because if we do it, people would say, yeah, but we can't do that. If we lived in Atlanta, if we lived in Dallas, and when people walk through here, just a few folks that get the sneak peek, the jaw-dropping, gasping kinds of reaction is they're feeling the language we created.
Yeah. They're feeling seen.
Yep, seen, and what we wanted people to feel, because that was some of the questions, like, what do you want people to feel?
And I think that's one of the key pieces of the creative and strategy process. Oftentimes people look at the output. They look at what was created. But you only get there if you're actually asking the right questions and insightful questions, and sometimes the questions that people are afraid to ask. So it's to get to the right output, you got to ask the right questions on the front end.
Sure.
And we learned pretty darn quickly that when you were going to open your mouth, we needed to have the record button real close.
Like, you'd ask us a question and we'd say, someone would say, wait,
Wait, that was good. What was that?
Are
What
we
was
recording? Because you'd ask me to say it again, and I can't say it. I don't remember what I said because I'll be in the moment. But even that, learning to capture it, because Black tradition is such an oral tradition, and they didn't have rewind or playback, which is rewind. So we had to remember the stories and the intonation, but to capture its essence really felt like a sacred thing, and that it would shape, our website. So this is not, so it's been a powerful process. We have now shifted from the website that you built, theblackcenter.org, that helped us to raise money, $32 million, so that we could pay off all the debt on this facility.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
That's just, I still pinch myself over that one.
And in a tough economic climate as well.
Economic climate, exactly, and tough political climate. Like, it was just, everything was just tough. And then other organizations were in the market at the same time. And then, but you guys gave us the flexibility. Like, I think we're going to save the URL that was like the Center for Black Excellence and Culture of Wisconsin or something. And I remember asking, is the Black Center available? And, your team checked and said, yeah, it is. And we didn't want to put WI on it because that would make it too complicated. Let's just be The Black Center, period. And it was, theblackcenter.org. Even that was part of creating. Like, this will be something that we can hashtag. It's easy to say to people, like how can I find out more information? Just go to theblackcenter.org, not put like WI or of Madison or something. But we had to be creative around even the URL, as well as what was going to be there when you found it. So now we're shifting things to talk about how you rent this elite Black boutique event space, and that associations and business groups from the entire city can use this space, plus explaining the programming that we have and showcasing staff. And so this 2.0 version is really beautiful, and then it'll be handed off to us so we can begin managing it to add the next phase. But it just sort of felt like it was this infancy stage, and now that it's becoming more useful and interactive, it's like you had this little baby and now it's going off to school. That's a whole different process. And you got staff that handles this really, really well. Dana, we missed those meetings that you were in, and you do pop into some of those
I do
sometimes.
once,
but I know you got these big, I get it. There are things that I don't sit in. But I got to tell you also, Shelly brings the sensitivity because of her family and insights. But the team that sits around the table, we feel them wanting a win on this with us. And I love the fact that as this now is completed and we're planning to do a grand opening in about 25 days, I love that the architects, the marketing team, the legal team, they walk through and say, I just saw the first level, or I saw the mask wall, or I saw this, I saw that. People feel like it's their space as well because of how they've invested. And that, to me, feels like a real win.
I just, in walking through this morning, the stamina that you have, Leleda has, like the stamina to not compromise on things there was so much temptation along the way, as we're fundraising.
Sure.
Maybe we don't need this. Maybe we could cut this corner. And to walk into the space and know how special it is because of that. I'm going to use the word stamina. I mean, that's it. It was it was many years,
exactly.
of consistently having the vision around it. It's just it's awesome.
I knew it was going to be beautiful in walking in the building today. I think what people will be surprised by, one is we knew it would be inspiring. Mm-hmm. It's even more inspiring when you actually lay your eyes on it and see it. The other part is just the amount of mixed variety and use that you've actually put inside of this just under 40,000 square feet. It's a lot more versatile than I anticipated it to be. It's fantastic walking through it.
I'm so proud that you all get to see it with us, but more proud that from those early Zoom calls around what's happening with Madison being on fire and America being on fire and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor to talking about collateral materials that could help us raise funds, and they did. How do we tell the story? Building the website, social media. And that experience gave us the confidence to ask Fendor for black hard hats. Like, everyone knows hard hats are white, but like at Groundbreak, we had black hard hats, or I'll show you in some of our classrooms, our whiteboards are black. Like, we're just doing subtle things to just say, we really want to bring our culture and ourselves to the table, because that is what will allow us to be fully Madisonian and a full Wisconsinite. You can tell there's great energy here, but it's not so that we live here. It's so that we're energized, so that it spills over to the community, and the broader community will benefit from this.
Well, and to build on the broader community, that's one of the things that came through loud and clear sitting in those folding lawn chairs in your parking lot was you had a yearning to address the black community and the gap really, and used it earlier, I think the perfect term, the sense of belonging that people could feel. But you didn't want to stop there. You actually were very articulate in the broader impact that the whole community has from a healthy black community.
Yes.
And that we really needed to address that piece in total. It couldn't just be one or the other. Right. It had to be a yes and if this was really going to make the ultimate impact that it can have on Madison and Dane County and Wisconsin.
Absolutely. Wow.
I mean, the two of us are here representing a group of 140 who are so proud. Truly, that is so proud of this work.
140. That's a wonderful staff. But I love hearing the pride, and when I talk with them or interact with them, I feel that and I sense that, and that's tremendous. And I'm looking forward to celebrating the grand opening on May 6th. Thank you two for being here. I know that your worlds and lives are busy. I'm traveling to Austin soon.
You need to swing through.
Is your office downtown?
It's amazing. Yes. Yeah. You need to get there. We'll figure that out.
Please do. I leave tomorrow, but I'll be there for a couple of days for just some meetings to talk about the center, because now the word's getting out.
Sure.
And people want to know, how did you create something that's black-led in design, but it is supported by the broader non-black community? How did you build and do? That's the story. It's not how did you fund it. That's a part of it. How did you get other people excited about something that so unapologetically strengthens the black community? But it's the yes and, like you just alluded to. I put a workshop together to help other nonprofit leaders think about this. And one of them is, if you don't make your issue a part of the broader community's issue, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
So I had to help the broader community know that if you don't think about this, if you don't think about your marginalized communities, you're limiting your own progress as a community. And I realized early on, I had to make it very clear that we're not doing this to help Madison businesses. I'm doing it to help the black community in order to help businesses, but this is my focus. The ripple effect will be that we will all benefit from it. And I think that was a selling point, Dave. I think that's what the community hooked onto.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason why we want to be involved in a project like this, beyond just casting a beautiful vision, is, to Dana's point, we do have 140 people, 110 of them which live here. Another 30 are down in Austin. The reason why we participate with United Way, Boys and Girls Club, and the Center, ours, is because we want the whole community to thrive. And our people are blessed to be in Madison, Wisconsin. It's an amazing place.
Yes, it is.
That doesn't mean it can't be better. And so partnering with organizations that are really fundamentally committed to making an impact and making this place better is inspiring to our whole team. Which, when you're in Austin, if there's somebody that you feel like actually has the right vision to pull this off, if they need a storyteller in Austin, that's our second home. So
I love it. And you have clients all across the country, not just in Texas and Wisconsin.
We sure do. Yep.
All right. Is it all right if we put a link to Heaving in our notes section?
Black like me. Black like me.
Listen, if you're designing something that's great and wonderful, click the link, and do not ask these folks for some pro bono services because they're worthy of their hire. So please check out the link. Dana, Dave, thank you so much for
Our
being
pleasure.
here today. Hey, listeners, I want to thank you for leaning in and listening to another episode, another conversation about how our community is strengthened, but how we're strengthened in relationships. With times being as dismal as they are, dismal as they seem, people tend to forget or no longer believe that we can work together and do good together. And the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, through its partnership with the Hebron Group, is proof that we can work together and get lots of good done. So I want you to do a couple of things. Click the various links. Click the link to find out more about Heaving. If you want to be a part of making the podcast or keeping it strong and professional, click the Patreon link. I would love for you to become one of my supporters. And for as little as $2 a month, your support helps the quality of this program, equipment, and for all the things that go into becoming an award-winning podcast, which we are. It takes resources. So please click that link. The other thing that you can do is you can write a review from wherever it is you download this podcast. Let them know that you're enjoying it. You can retweet this, put a note out, share it with someone who's trying to build strategic relationships. But don't just listen and then walk into your next meeting. Do something with this information and share it, because that's what helps you to become a part of the change you want to see. And to all of our listeners, thank you for being the best part of Black Like Me podcast. I appreciate you. Until the next time I'm able to bring an episode to you, have a great day. And again, thank you for your support for Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G.
Black like me. Black like me.